When we're designing play-based motor skills training exercises, there are a number of variables that we can think about and manipulate to change the exercise depending on what we want to focus on, and to make the exercise relatively more simple, less complex, less variability, or relatively more complex with more variety, depending on our level of capacity that we're working with. The first variable that we want to pay attention to is the space that we're using. The bigger the space that we're able to use, generally the more complex it's going to get. The larger your range of motion is, the harder it is to control that movement. So if we think about a very simple stepping exercise, I might want to constrain my playing area to quite a small area so that we don't overstep and lose our balance. So very simply, you can use markers. I've got 4 cones in through here, and I only want to step to here and not any further because this is the limit of my balance. So I'm placing the marker at that point. So I'm constraining the space. I can also constrain the planes in which we are moving, so I can constrain it to only a single plane movement. So I might want to go only sideways, or I might only want to go forward, or I can go, well, it doesn't matter, I can go sideways, I can go backwards, I can go diagonally. I've got multiplanar movement, so we can think about constraining not only the size and the range of motion that we were working with, but also we can think about constraining whether we're using a multiplanar or a single plane movement. The second programming variable to think about is whether we're going to do the movement loaded or unloaded. Generally speaking, if the movement is unloaded, we're just using our body weight, it's going to be easier than if we load the movement. When we load the movement, we can do that either with a static load, like something like a medicine ball or a Viper, if we have access to one of those, and that will add some musculoskeletal challenge to the exercise. We can further increase the challenge and the complexity of the exercise by using a perturbated load, so something like a water bag or a sandbag, and then we can do our exact same stepping drill, just incorporating the load, and we might add a little bit of reaching. We can constrain the space and the range of motion in the same way that we do without the load. The third variable that we can play around with is the pacing of our exercise. Now, we're going to have 2 options here. We can obviously make the pace faster or slower. Generally, speeding things up will make it more challenging because we have to react more quickly. But we can also think about whether the pacing of our exercise is internal, i.e. I am deciding how fast I'm going to move, or whether it is external. So I have an external cue to tell me how fast to move. And that external cue can be a metronome, or it can be a song if I'm doing some dance moves. So I can then say, hey, I want the pace to be X, Y, or Z, and I can set my metronome or my music to that pace, and then I entrain my movement to the beat of the music or the metronome.